Imagine you're sitting in a crowded room, and even though you aren't saying a word, you feel like you're shouting. You're hyper-aware of your posture, the way you're holding your phone, and the exact moment someone glances in your direction. You feel like a fraud who's about to be found out, or perhaps you feel like a ghost, invisible despite your best efforts. Most people would call this social anxiety or imposter syndrome and tell you to just be more confident. But the truth is much deeper and far more empowering. You aren't broken. You are actually operating on a high-frequency psychological wavelength that most people simply haven't tuned into yet. What you've been told are your greatest weaknesses, your overthinking, your sensitivity, your quietness, are actually the raw materials of a rare kind of emotional intelligence. Psychology shows that what many of us identify as imposter syndrome is actually a byproduct of the Peter Principle. This is the observation that in any hierarchy, people tend to rise to their level of incompetence. When you feel like a fraud, it's often because you've pushed yourself into a new territory of growth. Research indicates that the most incompetent people are often the most confident because they lack the intelligence to see their own gaps. Therefore, your self-doubt is actually a biological signal of your high potential. It's a sign that your brain is processing the complexity of your environment at a level others miss. One of the most misunderstood silent rules of high-level psychology is the power of the invisible audience. We often spend our nights scrolling through social media, subconsciously comparing our messy, unedited behind-the-scenes to everyone else's polished highlight reel. This creates a state of learned helplessness. Your brain wasn't built to process 1,000 perfect lives before breakfast. When you feel inadequate, it's not because you are failing. It's because your brain is trying to protect you from a perceived social threat that isn't actually real. By recognizing this, you can flip the script. Instead of being the victim of the spotlight, you realize that everyone else is just as worried about their own spotlight. This realization is the first step toward true psychological freedom. Another silent law used by the most emotionally intelligent people is the mastery of dopamine scrolling. You've likely felt that paralyzing, tired but can't sleep sensation, where you're stuck in a loop of infinite content. Most people call this laziness. Science tells us it's actually a dopamine deficit state. Your brain is chemically incapable of wanting anything else because it's exhausted. The reframing here is simple but life-changing. You aren't lazy, you are overstimulated. The most successful people aren't the ones with the most willpower. They are the ones who protect their dopamine receptors like a bank account. They understand that silence isn't doing nothing. It's a sophisticated form of neurological recovery. We also have to look at the good girl or good boy debt. Many of us were raised to believe that being nice and easygoing was the ultimate virtue. But psychology reveals that chronic people-pleasing is often a survival mechanism rooted in the fear of abandonment. When you constantly say yes to avoid conflict, you aren't being kind. You are accumulating an emotional debt that eventually leads to burnout. High EQ individuals follow a different rule. They understand that a no to someone else is a yes to their own mental health. They realize that boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They are gates that let the right people in. Finally, consider the concept of aggressive patience. We live in a world that demands instant results, leading to a constant state of productivity anxiety. Research indicates that the obsession with the finish line is the exact reason many people never reach it. They burn out before the race is halfway over. Emotional intelligence means understanding that growth is non-linear. Some days, the most productive thing you can do is rest. Some days, moving an inch is more important than dreaming of a mile. This isn't giving up, it's strategic pacing. The world doesn't need you to be a louder, more perfect, or more normal version of yourself. It needs you to understand the unique psychological machinery you were born with. Your sensitivity is your radar. Your overthinking is your analytical engine. Your quietness is your strength. When you stop fighting your biology and start working with it, you don't just survive the modern world, you master it. You are much more capable than your current anxiety is telling you. If this perspective helped you see yourself in a new light, consider joining our community. We explore the hidden depths of personality and the silent rules of the mind every week. Subscribe to continue this journey of self-discovery, and remember, the most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Be kind to that person today.